A little disclaimer here before I start the video is that the intent of this video is not to be some type of chauvinistic, sexist video. It's not designed to be that. Some of you may take it that way, and if you do, I understand. I don't agree with you taking it that way, but ultimately, however you choose to perceive it, however you do perceive it based off of the way I deliver the message I'm trying to deliver, is how it is. I can't really help that. But I cannot lie that I am incredibly concerned about the state of the professional wrestling business down the road. And that has to do, in large part, with two females, one who runs TNA in Dixie Carter, and the other one who's a very major player in the WWE and someday is more likely than not going to be running the entire show, and that is Stephanie McMahon. Now, when you look at Dixie Carter, you ever hear somebody in the professional wrestling business tell you that, the marks should be the marks and they should be out of the business and they can't do things in the business because they don't know, they don't understand, and they don't get it? And then, you as a wrestling fan, you try to debate that and you be like, well, do you need to be a chef to know whether a steak is freaking good or not? Do you have to be a writer, producer, or actor, a director of a movie to know whether a movie is good or not? No, you don't. And it's a good argument. But then that person in the wrestling business, it comes back at you and says Dixie Carter. And then you say, oh, score one for you, big dog. When you look at Dixie Carter, to me, she's one form of an example of nepotism. Her daddy owns a company that has a lot of money that bought into TNA, and she gets to run the wrestling company because of her daddy's money, and she's daddy's little girl. So this is her plaything, this is her toy. And when you really look at it, frankly, I don't necessarily mean this in a derogatory way. I try not to. But Dixie Carter is a fan. She is a mark for the professional wrestling business. She's a mark for being around the wrestlers. She's a mark for being on television. She's a mark for being in charge of a wrestling company. And frankly, let's be realistic here. A lot of us, if we were in that same position, male or female, wouldn't matter. We would be the exact same way. However, that doesn't mean that Dixie Carter should be in the position that she currently is. When you look at TNA throughout the course of its history, I feel like for many years TNA did have an identity. Whether people always liked that identity or not, whether they gravitated towards the product or not, whether they understood it, comprehended it, got it, wanted to get it, didn't matter. It had an identity. It really did. And it had, I think, a purpose, a principle. It was trying to target a certain audience. It was originally founded as a company that was doing two things. One, trying to create not so much competition for the WWE, but an alternative and a second major wrestling company in the United States. But two, it was an attempt to go after those disenfranchised WCW fans that used to watch in great numbers back in the days, both Nitro and Thunder, that no longer watch professional wrestling. And you can make the argument definitely that TNA by and large failed to accomplish either one of those, especially the second one. But when you look at the first one, there was a period of time I felt like they were really counterculture to the WWE and what the WWE was represented. They focused on different wrestlers with different styles and a different way of doing things and presenting things and writing their television than what the WWE did. A lot of times with disastrous results, yes, but it still had an idea and it had its very loyal fan base with its own identity as a company. But when you look at TNA today, you sit there and you say, this company has no identity. You don't know what the hell they're doing. What is their purpose? What is their vision? What are they trying to accomplish? Who are their stars? Who are their top guys? A lot of times people look at it and they want to blame the Vince Russos and they want to blame the Hulk Hogans and they want to blame the Eric Bischoffs and they want to blame this or they want to blame that or they want to blame this or they want to blame that. I propose this to you as a question. Who's the person that signed off on all of these things? Who's the person that signed off on Vince Russo being in charge of writing your television for so long? Who's the one that was responsible for bringing Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff into disastrous results to begin with? Who's the one that's responsible for complete ineptitude and incompetence in marketing and promoting the TNA brand, image, and likeness? It's Dixie Carter. You know, when you hear the old saying that Harry Truman used to say about the buck stops here, well, in every major corporation, I don't care if you have a board of directors, I don't care what you say. Ultimately, the buck's got to stop somewhere. There's ultimately one person that's in charge just a little bit more than everybody else. And everything funnels up to the top. And in this case, in TNA, she's the president. She's the one in charge. So ultimately, she has to be accountable for the disastrous results that TNA has produced, in particular over the past couple of years as a company. You know, whether that be trying to go in March of 2010 or whatever it was, trying to go head to head with Monday Night Raw with your Impact product. Why would you do that? You had nowhere near the popularity or the fan base or the growth of product or the infrastructure to be able to even think of pulling that off, but you did. You got rid of the six-sided ring. You focused on even more maybe than you ever had. The old WWE rejects and the 40-year-olds and the 50-year-olds, in some cases the 60-year-olds, because you thought that was good for business, and all you did was continue to bury the people that maybe your core fans did want to see, that maybe if you had new fans tuning in to watch these old fossils and rejects from the WWE, they would latch onto these guys and continue to watch because of these guys, because they've seen these other WWE rejects and old washed-up has-beens from WCW and ECW years ago. If the novelty's there, but the novelty wears off very quickly, and once you don't have that novelty anymore, if you don't do anything other than try and force this shit, the same old shit, down to people's throats, eventually they're going to rebel, resent, and remove themselves from watching your product. And that's exactly what's happened with TNA. Exactly what happened. So when you look at it, who's been overseeing that? Who's been signing off on it? Who's been rubber stamping this shit? Who's allowed this company to go to hell in a handbasket where they lack a clear vision, they lack a direction? They still to this day can't effectively market or promote their product, to the point where I'll have people sometimes talk to me here in Virginia about the old Crockett territory, Mid-Atlantic, and they'll talk about people like Sting, for example, going back to the old TBS days and talking about WCW, and they'll be like, whatever happened to Sting, Schleg Daddy? And I'll tell them, he still wrestles. They say, he wrestles? I've never seen him on WWE. No, he wrestles for TNA. And the response I usually get is, what's that? What's TNA? Who's that? You've been in business for 11 and a half years. You have your product on major national cable television on Spike TV in a Thursday primetime slot. And you've been in existence 11 and a half years, several years of which you have been on major cable television. And people still don't know who the fuck you are. They don't know you exist. They don't even know you have these people that you insist on featuring all the damn time because you think it's good for business when it really isn't. What good is it to feature these damn old fucks and these WWE rejects and these washed up WCW and ECW has-beens and never wases if nobody knows, if nobody cares, if nobody even knows you freaking exist? That's what Dixie Carter represents. It's like she was a fan that lucked into it because her daddy had a bunch of money and bought the wrestling company and said, here you go, little girl, I love you. Your daddy's little girl always has been, always will be. This is something for you to do. Why don't you run this and see what you can do with it? Maybe you'll run it into the ground or make it a success. But then you look at the other end and you look at Stephanie McMahon and you say, this is somebody that was born into the business, literally. She's been around the business her entire life. She has experience both as an on-camera performer, you know, in terms of an authority type figure, and being an actual in-ring performer and being an on-screen character. Yeah, she has experience behind the scenes in the writing and producing of WWE television and live events, and has for many years now. You would think that she would be perfect. She would be the type of person that the people in the pro wrestling business say, this girl has paid her dues. This girl understands. This girl has worked her way up. This is a girl, a lady, a woman that we could feel confident in running the day-to-day operations of our company. However, when you look at Stephanie McMahon, let's understand a couple of things. Number one, if she wasn't Vincent Kane McMahon's daughter, she wouldn't be in the position that she's in today, and that's just fact. hey, you know what? Certain people get privileges and opportunities that others don't. And you got to take advantage of them. And Stephanie McMahon, to her credit, has worked hard and gotten to a certain position. And she's taken advantage of the opportunities and the benefits that she has that comes along with being Vincent K. McMahon's daughter, period. She's done that. But she's also an individual that, even though she has been an in-ring performer and she has been a character on screen and she's been involved in some big storylines over the years, she's not somebody that's been a main event talent. She's not somebody that consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, always had to deal with the grind of being on the road all the time as a performer, had to sit there and work at all levels of the card as a feature performer, doesn't understand the pressures of being a main event performer time after time after time after time after time, like certain other individuals have to deal with that pressure all the time. She doesn't understand that. She's not somebody, I think, with the business acumen of Vincent K. McMahon from a sports entertainment standpoint, understanding the importance of the spectacle and understanding the importance of other things. When you look at Stephanie McMahon, this is somebody that oversaw WWE's creative processes as the executive vice president of creative for several years. And what happened during that time? An extreme proliferation in the use of Hollywood writers, TV script writers, soap opera writers, comedians, and being part of the creative team, but not professional wrestling fans. We don't want to have them. It's almost to the point where you've even heard Vince and Stephanie talk about it before. When they have people on the creative team, they don't want them to be professional wrestling fans. They don't think that's an asset. They think that's a damn liability. Now, excuse the hell out of me, but if I'm trying to appeal to wrestling fans, and there are many different types and many different segments of wrestling fans, no matter how much people on the internet think they're the majority, even though they're minority, the bottom line is there are all different types of wrestling fans. If you don't have an understanding of what each of those different groups of wrestling fans are looking for, and you don't know how to effectively bridge the gap between what you're offering and what they're needing and wanting, and you can't provide something for everyone, your audience is going to dwindle and continue to dwindle. And that's exactly what has happened in the WWE for many years, but in particular the past 5 to 6 years especially. And Stephanie McMahon has played a big role in that. Sure, she's not in the position of Vince K. McMahon, who ultimately is where the buck stops with everything in the WWE, but she is the boss's daughter, and she has a lot of sway, and she has a lot of say. And if anybody denies it or anybody says otherwise, they're fucking fooling themselves. But what has Stephanie McMahon really done that's been good for the company? What has she really done to help the company? Again, from the outside looking in, it would seem like, if anything, without even having to know necessarily all of the particulars of what goes on in the day-to-day operations of the WWE, it would seem like, from the outside looking in, that a lot of the things she would have instituted and been involved in and been in charge of have been disastrous for the company and have negatively impacted the company to the point where we're only really starting to feel the negative impact of the company. You know, you have all different types of professional wrestling fans. Some like the over-the-top, larger-than-life characters and charismatic personalities. Some like the flip-de-flip, skip-de-skip, bumping, high-flying, jumping all over the place, no-selling type of performer. You have those that love the love stories and those that like the character development and those that like the plot twist and the great compelling storytelling. You get none of that in the WWE. Feuds all up and down the card where everybody's involved in something and everybody matters. You don't get that. You haven't gotten that from the WWE in several years. Why? Because Stephanie's been one of the people in charge of that. People aren't getting that. And that's why people aren't as interested in the product as they used to be. Even the people that watch the product, by and large, are not as, interested as they used to be. And to think about it, that someday Stephanie McMahon, to me, without a proven track record of doing a lot of good things that have helped the business, without a proven track record of success to point to say, look at what I did that was good. Look what I did that was a positive. Look at what I did here. She's going to be running the fucking company someday. She's going to be the one in charge. She's going to be the HBIC, the head bitch in charge. And that's only because she's the daughter of the chairman of the board and CEO, Vincent K. McMahon. What would be another example of nepotism? So basically what you have are two women in Dixie Carter and Stephanie McMahon that are pretty much running wrestling companies. Dixie already is, Stephanie pretty much is, and definitely will be someday, that are really only in their positions that they currently will be in, or are in, or will be in, because of who they know, because of their last name. That to me concerns me tremendously. That to me reeks of the corporate incompetence that you see in certain companies in this country today, where instead of going after more qualified people or people that really understand what's going on, they go with this cronyism circle where they stick with their buds or their friends, or the family gets promoted over this or that. I've worked at plenty of places where I've seen, the owner, the founder, his name's on the building, and his son or daughter is in a position of management and skips several steps along the way where anybody else in the company would have had to go to those steps, and they still would have never reached the top of the staircase where the other family members are. They create positions of bullshit leadership for these family members and friends and cronies. And this is the type of person we're going to have running the WWE someday, and Stephanie McMahon. This is the type of person we're going to have running the WWE and Dixie Carter. And when you look at Stephanie McMahon and you sit there and say, yeah, she's been in the business a lot of years, she's got to know better than you, Schleg Daddy. Well, I'm sure she does. I'm sure she does. But let's compare this to sports for a second. I hate the whole thing of when a coach comes on there or a player comes on there and says, you don't know what you don't know, you don't watch the film, da, 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 da. You don't have to be a genius to know when a coach can't coach. You don't have to be a genius to know when a player can't play. And that's a fact. And that's just the way it is. And just because somebody's been in coaching for all these years doesn't mean they're good. Was Rob Marinelli a really good head coach in Detroit? I think Lions fans would beg to differ. What about Marty Morningweg? What about other guys from the past like Bruce Coslett and Rich Kotite? Oh, yeah, I went there. Ask Jets and Eagles fans how that one worked out for you. These are guys that worked their way up the ranks over the years, but they weren't any damn good. They were incompetent. They sure as hell weren't equipped to be NFL head coaches, period. But, in some cases, or in the case of, let's say, you look at the Brown family. You had Paul Brown and his son Mike Brown ran the Bengals into the ground for so many damn years. He was the owner. The only reason he was in the position that he was in was because his dad founded the Bengals. His dad founded the team, owned the team, and passed it on to his son. His son's not competent, nor has he ever really been. Even if the Bengals haven't been that bad the past couple of years. Mike Brown ran that Bengals organization in the ground year after year after year for more than a decade due to bad coaching hires, bad personnel decisions, horrible contracts given out, the works. But the only reason he got his position was because of nepotism, because of who he knew, because of what his last name was. And that's what we're going to get out of the WWE. Somebody who's going to be in that top spot, who could serve certain roles and purposes in that top spot that could be good for the company, but by and large hasn't done enough throughout their track record in their period of success to sit there, in a period of the career, to demonstrate enough to success where you can sit there and say, holy shit, this person deserves to be at the top of the company. You look at it. Stephanie's probably the number 2 person on the entire hierarchy of the WWE? And did she really work as an agent? She work at this and at that level? Or did she just get fast-tracked up to the top? Think about that. I hope in 2014 and beyond that professional wrestling gets better. I love this sport, this form of entertainment. I really do. And when it's good, it can be one of the most pure and organic forms of entertainment, one of the most awesome things for anybody to possibly enjoy and watch. But I see what's coming on the horizon. I see what's already here. I see what's staring us in the face, and I'm very concerned. You've got 2 women now that basically are running 2 wrestling companies that are in positions that I don't know that they deserve to be in, that are really only in their positions because of who they know, because of their last name, because of their daddies. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the future of the professional wrestling business. And it concerns me greatly because as long as these kind of spoiled brats are running the show, they're going to continue to surround themselves with what? People that tell them how good they are. People that tell them how right they are all the time. People that tell them how star-spangled awesome they are. What they won't put around them are people that have the courage to stand up and say, no, this is bullshit. No, that's bullshit. All they'll do is find those kiss asses that'll sit there and try and position themselves in positions of favor and power to look better for the boss and ultimately make the boss feel better about themselves, henceforth rewarding them. So it seems like Dixie Carter has had for many years. And it looks like what Stephanie McMahon's going to have. If this is the future of professional wrestling, may God have mercy on our souls. I hope I'm wrong, but I really am curious to see where the state of this business is going to be from 5 years from now.